So as I was saying, now it wants to log me in. Give me a second. Okay, so as I was saying, OOP244 NBB, so this is on February 4th. Yeah, so you start the solution, and the very first thing that you do is to create a mock-up of all the things that needs to be done. So you take a look at what the description of the workshop is in this case. So we are saying you are to create. So our objective over here is to create a myString class that can represent itself, impersonate itself as a string. So you don't have to think about character arrays and C-string stuff. So that myString is going to act like you say integer I, and you have an integer. You're going to say myString str, and you got to have a string that can hold a statement without all the fusses of arrays and things like that. We want to create a compound type that represents a string. So that's what we want to do. We don't, because the focus on this thing is on operator overloading, since that's the last thing we learned, I specifically made it a statically allocated memory, which means no dynamic memory allocation. Okay? Later on, when we progress, we can change it to dynamic so it can have any size. But as you see, the maximum size of the string that it can get is 4095, which means the size of the array inside must be 4095, 4096, and one for the null termination. So the very first thing we do, we add the add the properties that we want. So the objective, essentially, this tells us that we're going to create design a class with private data, constructor and destructor. The destructor in here doesn't do anything. It's going to be an empty destructor. I'll show you how to do it, but do it anyway so we know what's going on. Okay? So we kind of learn how the destructors are done when you don't have anything in them. You're going to implement some member functions. You're going to overload plus equal, prefix postfix plus, two different types of subscription operator, which is index, and a type conversion operator for a constant character pointer. So these are the things we want to do with this, okay? And this myString of mine should be able to be displayed on cout, that is OStream, and read from cin, that is iStream. So these are the functions we are creating, all right? So the very first thing we do, we create the data for it. And I explained over here, I want the data to be like this. So you can simply copy that and put it in here. So that's going to be your data. And as you see, it's 4096. Change that one to this +1. Why? Because later on, you can change that to any value as long as you use max string size for all your string sizes, then it can be flexible. You can change it later on, make it bigger or small if you want. So please do that with me, okay? So don't just look at me, do it, okay? And obviously these things are all private, so we're gonna set it to private, and I keep turning this on, off, and there we go. So that's going to be private, and we're going to create a public part for the things that we want. And that's that. Something that I did not mention to you in classes that we were creating before, now I'm going to mention it to you now, is that you can, outside of a constructor, initialize the members of a class, which actually supersedes the constructor, which means before constructor even wants to get run, the initializations happen. So whenever you have a specific type of initialization and you want to make sure that all the things that you have are clean and nice, even before the constructor, you can do it right in front of the member, the attribute. So right over here, I can actually create this. That means no matter what type of constructor, I'm going to have a clean M data with all the elements set to 0. Are we good with that? Okay. Then we are going to create our constructor. So what we do over here, essentially, we're going to put all the prototypes of the things we want to implement for the class in it without implementing it to see what the class is going to look like. I'm going to have a constructor. Constructor is going to do something, so I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to have a destructor. Okay? My destructor, because I do not have dynamic memory allocation, will not do anything. Okay? I'm just going to write it over there, and I'm going to do this. Take a look. I'm going to say equals to default. That essentially means, hey, I am writing the destructor. You do it for me. Create the default one. So equals to default essentially means it creates an empty destructor for you. Got it? You can do that for a constructor too. So for example, as I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it in class or not, when you don't create anything, if I don't have a constructor or destructor, automatically a default will be created for me, an empty no argument constructor and an empty destructor. But if you wanted to have an empty destructor, for example, over here I have a no argument one, you see that? I could do this instead. Essentially means I want a no argument constructor, but I don't want to do anything in it. Why? Because I already initialized it at line 7. It will be null automatically. You follow? What happened? We good? You good? You're okay? All right. So either this or you can put a default value for it. Your choice. Potatoes, potatoes. They work the same way. Now we're going to go to the next. We want to display the object. Now, this is a little awkward when you're looking at this display method over here that is supposed to display the class. This is a little awkward. It's returning lots of stuff. First of all, it has OStream. In here, I have to say include OStream, IOStream, obviously. But you are never allowed to do this. Never allowed to do this in a header file. Why? Because it creates hidden logic. Which means if somebody includes your header file without knowing, is going to start using STD. Maybe they don't want to. Because of that fact, you never do that, but instead you qualify every single object by writing STD in front of it. STD OStream, STD. So what this display is doing essentially it says, I'm going to print on O stream. If you don't give me the O stream, I'm going to use Cout, which essentially means it displays on Cout. And it returns the same Cout out, so it can be used as, what did we call it? When we returned this, it created, what do we call it? When we said, I said when we return this, you can, I call it chain reaction. It's called the chain reaction. So essentially, you can keep using it over and over and over because it's returning a reference. So you can write a display and put a dot after and keep going, whatever you want to do. Anyways, you'll see what happens. So this is a standard way of writing a display. In many workshops, you will see that they just tell you, write void display void. Okay? Don't do that. Do it like this. Because you have a default value for it, it doesn't make any difference. Okay? The good thing about it is that this becomes an upgradable display. You don't understand what does it mean now, but later on you'll appreciate it. When you write the display like this, that becomes an upgradable display, which means it can do more later. Okay? So instead of void display void const, always make it OStream display OStream by default Cout, which means when they call display, it's going to print it on Cout. And inside your display, you're going to use OS instead of Cout because OS becomes a new name for Cout. So you can freely use it. Okay? So I'm going to write over here OSTR so we know it's OStream. We do the exact same thing for reading. Okay? Reading reads from iStream. So when you say read, it's going to read from ISTR. If you don't mention what ISTR is, automatically it will be CN. So your read, in your read, you're going to use ISTR, and it's going to be always CN. Okay? The good thing about, for example, this display is that if you want to print it on C error or C log, you can, because they're all the same. They're all OStream. You can change it to whatever you want. We good? Down to this point? As you see, I am not caring what these functions are supposed to do. For now, I am using at its interface. Essentially, I want to see how my string is supposed to be used. Sorry. Yeah, how the string is supposed to be used. How the internals of the string is going to work, I'm going to think about it later. This is called designing without thinking about implementation. You look at yours, it's like I want to have a car that it's blue and I want the interior to be like this. You're not caring how the car is supposed to be driven, what is going to happen, how it's going to be used. But for now, you're just specifying what do you want. This is essentially your wish list. Okay? We continue. So we are going to use a method of cin called getLine. Cin has a method, iStream has a method called getLine. The difference between getLine and extraction operator that we do from cin, we go cin into a string, is that when you do cin with an extraction operator into a C string, what happens is that it stops at space. So you cannot have spaces inside your string. GetLine doesn't care about that. When you write GetLine like this, where is GetLine? When you write GetLine like this, it reads up to 4096. And that 4096 essentially includes the null termination too. So it safely reads up to 4096 characters, and if you pass, it will stop, and your object is safe. But it accepts all delimiters, okay? You can put tab in it, whatever. The only thing that it stops at is new line, which is enter key. All right? So that's that. So that's reading. We're going to use that in read later on. We're going to create a query. What does a query do? It doesn't change the object. It sends information back to you. So we're not going to have strlen for this. When I create a string, I'm going to ask, what is your length? And it's going to tell me what is its length, how much data it has in its array. It's going to tell me. what happens behind the scene is that I'm going to use that CSDR module of mine underneath. So the person who's using my string doesn't need to know a character pointer, doesn't need to do anything. Can treat this as a regular variable. Actually, I forgot to add something in here that I'm going to add right now. And one operator overload I forgot to add. I'm just going to add it right now. So take that away. So where was I? I came down to, so in here I'm going to say type conversion to that one, and I'm going to say to assign a myString object to a C string. Okay, so we're going to do that one too. I didn't do it, so I'm going to add that one. So let's save it. And yeah. And I'm going to add it. Where do I add it? myString, yada, yada, yada. I talked about display, read, length, operator overload. So I'm going to add it over here, operator overloads. Operator overloads. There you go. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to say operator equal. Constant character pointer C string. Yep, that's it. Sets the myString object to a C string. Save it. Okay. And close it. Added operator equal. There are many things that we can add to this. Later on, you can do whatever you want and add anything you want, but I'm just putting the minimum thing that makes this thing a nice thing to use. Anyways, so let's go back and go over here. Now I can refresh, and hopefully it's going to come up. Yeah, there you go. So the next thing we need to do is to be able to actually set this thing to a string, which means, let me just go to main, and I'm going to actually show you how each of these things is going to be used. So if you look at the main, I actually created the main over here for you. And I'm going to add it over here. Okay, so as you see now, the display is okay. This is not assignment operator. It's the same thing as, so when you have assignment operator at the moment of creation, it is exactly the same thing. So I'm going to write it in 3 different ways so you can see. All these 3 lines are the same, identical, okay? But now I can actually do this. C is set to new value. This is operator equal. Okay, so be aware of this. Oh, I already have a C in here. So, I have to make it D. Okay. And D dot. So look at this display. You see this display? I am inserting end L into it. You see that? I'm saying display and end L. How can I do this? Because display is returning O stream. Because it's returning O stream, display will replace C out. Therefore, I can insert something into it. It becomes a new name for C out. We'll walk through it and we understand later on when we go in. So this is essentially the use case of the things we are doing. Okay, so length is the one, and after length, operator equal plus equal, which means essentially we concatenate one to the current object. It gets one string and adds it to the end of another string, no concatenation needed. Or what I can do, I can have 2 strings and create a new one out of it that is the result of the concatenation of 2 of them. So I have first name, I have last name. I can actually have full name is equal to first name plus last name. Did have side effect? Cons? This does have side effect. Okay? Operator plus plus adds a space to the end of the string. So if you have a string and you want to add one, you have a string you want to have to add a space after, this does it for you. Sorry, before. This adds a string before, and this one will add one after. The index operator. So you can actually use your string like a character array with no problem. If you want to actually go through the character arrays, you can do it. And you can even change those values because it's going to return the reference of each character array you have in there, of each character you have in there. And then you're going to overload that one and create an identical one with constant back and forth, which means if the myString object is passed with a constant tag, you can still read the individual characters, but you can't modify it. So this overload is for a read-only myString. This overload is for a read-write myString. And finally, if somebody wants to have access to the data like a regular C string, they can always cast it to a C string and extract this address out, but read-only. So this becomes a C string, myString that I want to use. What you need to do now is to create hollow methods, empty methods of all these things in your CPP file so the whole code becomes compilable without doing anything. That's called creating a mock-up. When you do it like that, when you create the mock-ups, empty functions with nothing in them but compilable, what happens is that it first of all gives you a feeling of satisfaction because you compiled and everything works. And then you can work on individual function as you go through without seeing 50,000 error messages coming up. Because for some reason, students got used to write the whole code and compile and see there are 90,000 errors. What am I supposed to do now? Like this, you focus on every individual function. As it goes through, it becomes more complete until everything's done. So we can do this manually, or we can actually ask the IDE to do it. In here, I'm going to do the IDE, but please do it manually, because when you're doing it in a quiz, you're not going to be able to just create it. So I'm going to do the first one manually, and I'm going to keep it. So I don't need this anymore for now, because I already wrote the blueprint of what the requirement of the project is. So in here, I have a workshop. In real life, we call it a use case. So you actually sit with the client and ask the client, what do you want this thing to do? And you write it down, and you know what it is. And based on the client's desire or need, you design your string or whatever object you have. Yes. All right. 901. So I'm just going to start with this. I'm going to create definition in my string. So essentially, this becomes your string. And I'm going to create them one by one. So I'm going to go over here and just create them. So display, create the definition. And in here, in here I can, because it's not a header file, I can actually say include IO stream. And in here, I'm going to say include cstr.h. And then I'm going to say using namespace std. So I have all the good stuff that I need to have. Now I'm going to come over here and one by one create these. So I'll create this one. So operator equal doesn't want to create. I'll create it myself. So in here, I'm going to say my string reference, my string operator plus plus, and return my string. Actually, return this. And the other one is going to be my string operator plus plus. Actually, the signature of this one is wrong. It is supposed to be like this because you are changing the owner. You are not, this is not, this operator doesn't work like the integer operator. Okay, so that's that. And return this again. And we create the rest of them. So for all those who are returning reference, you return this. So this is returning reference. I'm going to return this. This is returning OStream. I'm going to return ISTR. What I'm receiving, I'm returning. This is returning OSTR. I'm going to return OSTR. And then I compile. So it says already has a body. Oh, this one I've, why it says it already had a body? Operator, oh. Oh, there's the one up, sorry. So this one's going to be int. One is postfix, one is prefix. There you go. Recompile. Now I can start actually coding. As you see over here, must return value. The index operator must return value. So in here, I am returning, I'm going to say return m.0. I just want it to compile. I don't care what it is. Or index. I'm going to fix it later on. And this one, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say return m.index. I'm just returning the index of the thing. I'm not doing any type of validation of any kind. Compile again. This one should return a value. Oh, and this one just return mdata. And that's it. Now I will compile. Now everything is set. I can actually run this program. You see, I have over here, it's not going to do anything, but I can actually run the program. It's going to be something garbage because it's all compiled. But now you can start one by one, go over here and start implementing it one by one, commenting the ones that you did not implement, and only test those in your unit test and be done at the end. Are we good? All right. So now I'm going to log in and start up the quiz. Okay. What's the time? You're very close. I'm not going to restart your computers because we don't have time, but make sure you get rid of your cell phones and stuff like that. It is logging me up. All right. Okay. We're good to go. Explaining what the what the quiz is. So let me open it up over here so I can tell you exactly what you need to do in your quiz. And we don't need to record anymore, so let me stop the recording.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I don't think we have Notepad in our
Notepad plus plus?
It's not there.
What the? They removed it? Use regular Notepad. Use regular Notepad for now until I see what the heck just happened. Notepad++ is not there? No, Notepad, you should have it on your own computer. You can actually, let me see, I have to allow you. God damn it. Let me see if I can quickly add Notepad.
Can we use VS Code?
Hmm?
Can we use VS Code?
I don't think so. VS Code gives you Copilot. Then I'm testing Microsoft, not you. Okay, you're going to do the quiz next week. And I'm going to send those.
May God bless you.
Damn it. Let me check and see if I have it. Oh shoot, somebody's gonna go. Let me just change the thing and say test is canceled. I have to because if students with accommodations go. Give me a second, guys. It's got major. We're gonna continue the lab then. Okay, so let me just quickly stop the. Can't believe this. NBB, right? We are OOP244 NBB quiz 2. So, as I was mentioning, we have our to-do set, and we have our CSTR with all the functionalities, and now we want to have our string class to work as a single variable handling all string features. So let's start. For my string over here, as you see, I have a data over here that is go to maximum string size. And I simply going to concatenate it, truncate it if it's greater than that size. So for my string constructor, all I need to do is to do an str copy, the one that we had for 3 arguments that we written over there. So essentially, it copies into mdata the string that is coming in up to max string size. Okay? So what happens over here is that if it grows more than that, that str copy, this is not in string header file. This is what we have in the CSTR. So because it's not like strn that doesn't do null termination when it reaches to the end. It null terminates everything. So that's the string copy that we have. So essentially that creates my class. For display, it's pretty simple and straightforward. All I need to do is to print the mdata, whatever it is, on the O string and return it. So when display is called, it's going to display the data. Usually classes like this, we call these type of classes wrappers. You're going to see, not rappers that sing, I mean with W, wrappers. Okay, so this wrappers, you're going to see it a lot in OOP244, which essentially they wrap other stuff in them to make working with them easily. It's like you're having a sandwich. Instead of having all the pieces all over the place, you wrap them inside a bread and you can eat them all easily. It's the same thing over here. So all that dirty processing of working with C strings, I am wrapping it, encapsulating it inside a class called myString to do all the good stuff I want to do. So for read, what I want to do. For read, as I mentioned, we're going to use the iStreams get line. And in here, I'm going to say put whatever you are reading into mdata up to max string size plus 1. Because unlike C functions that they refer to the size of the data, getLine wants the actual valid size of the buffer. So it includes the null itself. So this one has to be +1, where C string stuff, they are not. So that actually reads the string and returns it. So that's going to be my read. For operator plus equal, I am adding another string and concatenating it to the data that I have. So for that, first I have to make sure that the length of the two fit in the size. So I have to say if my length, I haven't even implemented the length, but I'm using it, okay? My length from plus other dot length is less than max string size, now I can do the concatenation. Otherwise, I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to do anything because I'm going to lose data. We don't want that. Okay? So in here now, I'm going to say strcat, concatenate into mdata, the others data. Simple and straightforward. I concatenate the two. So that's going to be plus equal. For plus, what I'm going to do is this. First, I'm going to say, because I have to create a temporary string and return that one out. This doesn't have side effects, so I shouldn't change. So I need to build a string. So in here, I'm going to say, first of all, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I have done over there, which means the length of the two. So I'm going to say if length of mine plus other dot length is less than max string size, so now for this one I'm going to say my string both, and I'm going to set this one to myself, which essentially becomes a copy of this one, copy of the current object. Now that I have the copy of the current object, I can say both. Actually, you know what? I don't need to have this if statement. I'm going to reuse my code. So in here, I'm going to say both plus equal other. Done. See, I'm just reusing the one that I have up there. So I'm saying both is this one, then I'm going to say both plus equal other. So essentially uses that one. And if the other one is bigger, it just returns the first one. So no harm done. For operator plus plus, for operator plus plus, I need to add a space before, not after, because plus plus is coming before. So essentially adds a space before. This is kind of tricky. I can play a trick and do it as with copying and stuff like that, or you can do it with C. I encourage you with C yourself. So write a loop, shift everything to right, make the first one blank. But I'm going to play a trick. Okay? What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, it's a very ugly way of doing it, but I'm doing it. I'm going to say my string temp is equal to this. First of all, is equal to actually space. Okay? So I'm creating a temp, and I'm going to set it to space. Then I'm going to say temp plus equal me. So now temp is a space with me after. Now I'm going to say I set me to temp. Ugly, awful, inefficient, bad way of doing it. But it works. Okay? So you give me this, you're going to lose like some marks because it's very inefficient. First, you have to create a temporary object. You have to do that process. Then you have to copy one to set one to another. And then you have, it's lots of messy stuff happening where you could simply write a loop, shift everything to right. So essentially say, I don't know, m data I is equal to m data I plus 1, and go right to the end and make the first one blank. So shift everything to right. So in here, I'm going to say instead of this, make sure size is okay, and then shift characters to right, setting the first to space. Okay? And you're done. Okay? Please do that. It's a good practice. Especially all those people who got feedback for the quiz, the practice, the quiz, not one, before one. The first one that we have done. Take a look at your feedback. See how you have done. Okay? Now, to return the index, that's very easy. So all I need to do is to say index mod of length, which essentially means it's going to get the index, and it's going to go, it's going to divide it by, it's going to go mod. So if, let's say I have 10 characters, if index is less than 10, it will be the value. If it grows more than 10, it goes loops back. So they're going to just ruin their own. And it's going to be the exact same thing for the other one. As you see, implementing wrappers are very simple. They are very simple functions to write. Of course, you can later on think about adding logic and safety and stuff like that, but for now, this is all it is. If somebody wants to have the data, I'm going to send the data out. That's what I'm going to do. Because it's a constant character, it's going to cast this to a constant character, and it goes out. And for operator plus plus that I'm supposed to add 1 after, I'm going to do this, my string, space, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to say this plus equal space, and return this. So that's that. One thing that I did not do is assignment operator for strings, which is going to be my string reference operator equal constant character pointer C string. Let's write this too. So what I want to do over here is to say it's just a simple str copy, as easy as it's exactly like the constructor. So str copy into m data, the C string, and to max size, max string size, right? String size +1. No, that's it. Max a string size, and then return this. Done. Okay, so, and star. So now, writing all these, I'm going to come back to my main. Obviously, when you are writing it, you're going to write one, you test. You write the second one, you test. You write the third one, you test. You comment the things that are not doing the test, and you only focus on that part. I just did the whole thing to see what happens, okay? So first I'm going to run it. So as you see, now I can actually create a string called hello in all 3 different ways any way I want. They all work, right? And I can display them. I can set one to the addition of 2. So essentially, hello world's going to get concatenated, obviously no space between, so it would be a good idea to do a B plus. So I would test this. Here. This is adding a space after, right? Something like that. Okay, so let's run it and see what happens. I'm going to do F10, go through it. Build errors. No. Unresolved, yada, yada, yada. Let me see what's going on. It says there I have an unresolved thing. Let me compile it first. I didn't compile. See, I got too greedy, too confident. Oh, okay. Let me look at the error one more time. When I compiled, it told me one of the functions are missing. Oh. External simple for My string operator with character reference. My string operator with character reference. Go to definition. It's there. Why is it giving me an error? Anyways, so this is the one that is giving me an error. I'm gonna, oh, because it's creating a const. That's why it's doing that. Anyways, I'm gonna comment this. Run it one more time. Still error. Why it says oh, this one. That's interesting. Am I missing something here? Okay, let's comment these. Ah, I think I know what the problem is, but we'll see. Give me a second. Now it says operator plus equal. What's going on here? Something is going on here that I do not. Using namespace. As you see, it's giving us a warning. I just want to know why. Okay, I'm going to comment everything and go one by one. Plus equal. I'm not using a plus equal. Okay, I have to check it out and see what's going on. It's 1 minute left, and I have to see why this is happening. I'm going to check it out at home, and I'm going to connect a set a video to it and tell you what's wrong. I'm sure it's some silly mistake that I did somewhere, and you'll find out. So let me actually do this. I'm going to push it with mistake. Let me do it like this. I'm going to push it with problem. Whoops, Control Z, Control Z. I'm going to push it with problem. And then I'm going to fix it so we can actually see what the problem was. So let me compile, rebuild. Oh. Oh, here too. Yeah, I'll push it like this, then I'm going to fix it, and you're going to see exactly what the problem was. One more time, rebuild. I think I have a slight idea of what it's going to be, but I'll fix it and I'll let you know. So I'm going to commit it, and I'm going to say this has a problem, and then we're going to see what happens next. Where is the 3244? Operators lab with error will be fixed later. Commit and push. Okay, I'm going to, because this is something very straightforward. I don't know why it went wrong, but anyways, I'm kind of out of my mind now. for the problem that happened. Anyways, have a good day. Next week you are coming. We're going to have a quiz for sure. Anywhere, anyhow I can. We'll find out. Have a good one.